Here in Israel, so far the coronavirus has taken over 200 Israeli lives and revived one, the political career of the brilliant and courageous Benjamin Netanyahu. Mere months ago, Prime Minister Netanyahu was facing jail time for so-called corruption, as it's described by Israel's totally biased anti-corruption community. But since then, his trial has been postponed, thanks to a decision to freeze the courts by a justice minister who just so happens to have been appointed by Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, while he'll still have to face the charges eventually, no one is talking about it. Instead, the focus is on BeBe Netanyahu's masterful handling of the pandemic. As the Prime Minister proudly proclaimed on Facebook, Israel leads the world in testing for the virus. Predictably, the haters chimed in to point out that those statistics were isolated to 1 week, and therefore his post only applies to a specific snapshot in time. If one includes previous weeks in the calculation, Israel lags behind countries like Australia, Norway, and Iceland in the number of tests. Okay, but maybe Israel got all their testing done that week. It's like getting your homework done ahead of time so you can play outside. Plus, they're only testing the people who really matter. On April 14th, Israeli police made sure none of the tests were being wasted on Palestinians by raiding and shutting down a clinic in the Silwan section of East Jerusalem. The clinic was set up by neighborhood activists, but there may have been some collaboration with the Palestinian Authority. So Israel shut it down in order to prevent any governmental activity by the PA in occupied East Jerusalem. Preventing people from getting the care they need because of their nationality may seem a bit harsh during a deadly pandemic. But the good news is, a lot of those people are about to become Israelis too, whether they want to or not. Since COVID broke out, Israel has formed an emergency coalition government, headed by Benjamin Netanyahu and the better-looking actor he chose to play him in a movie, Benny Gantz. This week, they committed to annexing large parts of the West Bank. While BeBe's best buddy, Donald Trump, has given this move a thumbs up, the UN, the European Union, and the Palestinians themselves aren't quite as enthusiastic about the land grab, which would be, legally speaking, totally illegal under international law. But that's just legally speaking. Illegally speaking, it's completely awesome, dude. And in the homeland itself, only a third of Israelis actually support unilateral annexation. But any public opposition to the policy is likely to be curtailed by fears over the coronavirus and the resultant lockdown restrictions. That's right, the government knew people were bound to protest a decision like this, so they waited to make it at a time when they were less likely to go out and endanger their health and safety. Even before the coronavirus, protests in that part of the world were known for their hazardous conditions. The weather gets crazy over there. The air is dry, there's bullet-like hail, and this fog that feels like tear gas. Despite Israel's careful consideration of present and future citizens alike, residents of the Gaza Strip worry that they're unprepared for the pandemic worsening. Gaza has serious shortages in ventilators and PPE. Gazans complain that Israel has defined some medical equipment and supplies as dual use, meaning that they could also have a military purpose, highly restricting or outright banning their import to Gaza. It has also prevented the entry of spare parts needed to keep medical equipment operational. That may sound cruel and vindictive, but Israel has to make sure this equipment isn't being used militarily. The Gazans could easily start firing syringes out of rocket launchers or make a legion of extra-long catheters that shoot over the barrier wall. Or they could start using protective masks to shield themselves from Israeli tear gas. And if Palestinians weren't being tear gassed, what would Israeli soldiers do all day? They'd be bored out of their minds. Like any good politician, Netanyahu sees the COVID crisis as an opportunity to push through policies that normally wouldn't be accepted. Because of his power grabs, large sections of what was supposed to become a Palestinian state will likely be under his control this summer, which some people might call stealing, but I prefer to call collecting as a gift, while against the law. Reporting from the nation formerly known as Palestine, I'm Anders Lee with Redacted Tonight.